Hallo allemaal, welkom bij ons programma Dutch TV, gemaakt door Nederlanders in Australië voor iedereen met een Dutch link. Onlangs ben ik op pad geweest in West-Australië om een documentaire te maken, Contact Aboriginal People with Dutch Sailors in de 17e en de 18e eeuw. Ik heb daar ontzettend veel hulp gehad van Nonja Peters. Ik ben ook ontzettend blij dat ze nu bij mij in de studio zit en we weer even bij kunnen praten. Hallo Nonja.
Hallo.
Jij vindt het fijner om Engels te praten?
Ja, graag.
Ja, dus dan gaan we eventjes in het Engels. So we will talk in English now, because that's better.
Thank you.
How did you find it, being with me on tour, making this documentary?
It was a terrific experience, I thought. I thought we had a lot of fun. It was intense. It was a long trip in that car. We sat in a car for 10 hours.
Yeah, maybe 14 hours.
It was
even.
14, from Perth to Shark Bay, which is the island where Dirk Hartog arrived in West Australia in 1616. Yeah. And around that is where all the Dutch shipwrecks happened, in that part of the coast. Yeah. And that's because the Brouwer in 1611 changed the route to use the roaring 40s, which means that they would bang up against the West Australian coast, some of them. They couldn't work out longitude.
Yeah, so why actually did you want to do this?
Well, I've been working for a long time in Dutch maritime, military, migrant and mercantile history in Australia, and I've come across the stories of Aboriginal people saying that they have... Actually, it was at work one day. I was going to the Netherlands and I went to see an Aboriginal person to talk about some of the history along the coast. He said, well, I'm Dutch too, when I said I was going to the Netherlands. And I said, oh, and that's where my interest started. So I started to follow that up. And then I started to do quite a bit of history on that area. And then people started to do things like DNA. Well, that became problematic. So I thought the stories would be nice. Let's hear the stories, what they had to tell. And then you came along and I thought, this is perfect to have those stories told. This gives the Aboriginal people an opportunity. It gives us the first look at, let's see what's in that, possibilities in terms of research, in terms of indicators, and how strong are these indicators. So that's where you came into it.
Oh yeah, cool. Maybe nice because I made a sort of a promotional clip for our documentary that we can just look to that, and the people at home, they also can watch that, and then they actually know a little bit more what's the documentary about, and after that we talk a little bit further about it.
That would be great.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah. I think the central question is very much, is there evidence to support the claim by many people that there was cohabitation between 17th and 18th century Dutch marooned mariners from the VOC ships and Aboriginal Australians? Because there's oral history stories. What do these stories tell us?
Interest in the stories of Western Australia never seems to have ceased. It just seems to go on and on and on.
Yeah.
And so, for someone to, in the modern day, today, to do a documentary or shoot a film or a movie about this stuff, I mean, it's the most remote parts of the world.
Okay, so how was this to see yourself?
I never like looking at myself, but I'm passionate about the research, so I think it's fascinating that it's coming across, and and really pleased that we're able to put some of it forward, because we want to do more on this area anyway. So, and it inspires people. It's an area of research that so little is known about, that it's romantic and it has all sorts of interests attached to it, I think,
Yeah, but the professor really thought as well, like, oh, years ago, there was interest, and now you still want to make something about it. But I always think Dutch people like to hear stories about Aboriginal people here in Australia.
Do.
Yeah.
And I think the Aboriginal people want the story out there at the moment. Their reason would be for native title, of course, to prove that they've been on that land. But one of the other things that we've come up with that have come out of the research is that there are two illnesses that have possible links to cohabitation, and one of them is called Ellis van Creveld, and it means you have extra digits on toes and feet. It has some other nasties attached to it, and the other one is Porphyria variegata. And looking at the genealogies of Aboriginal people and research done by the West Australian Medical Institute in Princess Margaret Hospital shows that there's a high order of significance in West Australian Aborigines for Alice van Creveld, and it's nowhere, not quite as large, but very large in the Old Order Amish in Pennsylvania. So when you look at the shipping lists, you start to see that the people coming from those regions into the Amsterdam at the time, because of the Golden Age, there's a lot of work there, and they can make some quick money. So there's people, and there's communities on the other side of Texel where they would be from those regions, and so this is an illness that we could follow up and see.
Yeah, that comes back in the documentary as well.
And the porphyria as well. Yeah.
Another thing what I actually wanted to get you here to the studio is, and you will, and when we were in the car, we talked about try to get Dutch culture preserved in Australia.
Yes.
That's another topic than a documentary, but it also really interests me because also now with me making documentaries, TV programs, how do I keep that alive for generations after me?
That's right.
So but you haven't thought about that?
Oh, a lot. I had a workshop in Sydney in February, 16th to 19th of February, working with experts from all the GLAMs at the galleries, libraries, museums and archives. All the experts talking about different ways you could look at preserving cultural heritage. So, I mean, out of that, it was funded by the Embassy of the Netherlands, and we've talked about either physical buildings like a museum or digitisation. But the costs are prohibitive to put things into a building and maintain the building, maintain the temperature controls, maintain the collection, the staffing, the insurance.
Yeah, that will be expensive.
Digitisation is also very expensive, but it makes it much more accessible to a vaster range of people.
Yeah.
So it's about finding ways to fund that, basically. Yeah. So we're starting to work also with Australia as now one of the priority countries under the Netherlands Mutual Heritage Policy. We're working with the Hogan's Institute to look at digitising, and we're putting large data sets on. But in Australia, we need to do a lot of digitising. And the thing is, we can have representative samples or collections in the different museums or libraries, but you can't collect everything. At the moment, a lot of communities are just collecting madly. We all have to select. We have to decide how we should do this. Should we work together across Australia? Should we teach people to look after their stuff and hand it on to their children? Because for a sustainable model, the costs are prohibitive, and we need to say, okay, shall we go digitising? I know that, for instance, some clubs, and I don't know about Victoria, have written it into their constitution. When the club starts to die and there's not many people coming, that money should go to the preservation of cultural heritage. And I'm hoping that more of that will happen, and that we work across the country and not in states. I think we have to do this together, and we have to really work with the Netherlands as well, because what we have to say will be relevant.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, I'm on the National Library of Australia board, and we have something called Trove, which is a search engine where we've started to digitise newspapers. I'm trying to get the Dutch newspapers digitised, and I'm hoping that to get support financially for more of that, for the Courier, the Dutch Weekly. There's a number of them. Yeah. They need to go online, and people will look at things from in Europe as well. Yeah. And we can link that back to Europe, where they've digitised the Dutch newspapers.
Yeah. So we actually need to communicate with all the different communities and projects.
We need something like, say, Erasmus to come together and bring all the states together to talk about how we should do this effectively.
Yeah. So that's good.
Yes.
Okay, it's maybe nice to because we don't have that much of time, because we have to start in a documentary as well, and the documentary will be 45 minutes, so that will be going from this episode and the episode after this, so that will be 2 episodes. So it will be good that we watch the documentary.
Terrific.
And thank you so much for coming into the studio.
And thank you for coming to West Australia and doing this because it's exciting, and the Aboriginal people were very pleased to be part of it.
Yeah. For me it was really a pleasure. I really loved it. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Nu kijken naar het eerste deel van de documentaire en volgende week kijken we dan naar het tweede deel van de documentaire.